Good morning, Christine Morgan, and welcome back. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, good morning, Paul and Anthony. Great to be back. Thank you very much for having me.
Lovely to see you again.
Yes, lovely. It's evening here and sunshine over there, I believe. It's wet, cold and wintry in Australia.
Oh, wow. It's dry and hot here. It makes a change.
We're having a bit of a heat wave.
We are. We're not complaining. So, okay. So, Christine, one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and there is a lot of misinformation or lack of understanding around the psychic nature and the psychic senses and what that means for a medium. So can you explain a little bit? Because I know you had a grandmother that used to teach you all about, well, pyromancy, which I was really fascinated when you mentioned it, reading the flames, and the difference between our psychic nature and then connecting with spirit. Are the two connected?
Okay, right. Okay. Well, in my understanding, and this is obviously my understanding and my experience, the psychic world is really, really important. I don't believe you can be a great medium without being a good psychic. I absolutely don't believe that. I think you're better to be a good psychic than a ropey medium.
Okay.
Right. And I do agree with that. And I think psychic work is great and it's a fabulous tool for mediums. So when people start developing, we know that they're taught about self-awareness, understanding self, etc. But it's so important to understand when you're learning about your sensory perception, the importance of the psychic elements. So you see, feel, hear, all of that on a psychic level, smell, etc., the same as you do mediumistically. However, there is this current of thought sometimes that people think if they're just working psychically, it's either less or it's not as good as, like it's the lesser vibration I've heard somebody say to work on, which is absolutely nuts. It's not.
Yeah, I've heard the same. I've heard the same, and that's kind of one of the reasons we wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's all daft.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You've got to really think about it in terms that when you're developing and you're working through this sensory perception of element, you must remember when you're understanding your spiritual mediumship, your mediumship flows through the psychic faculty of the mind.
Yeah.
So the mediumship flows through the psychic faculty of the mind. And so the psychic faculty becomes very stimulated in the work. And in the beginning, we actually teach, and from my school of training and teaching and learning, and particularly with my dad when I was younger and my other tutors I had, we were always taught to work on a good intuitive level first. So you could understand the difference of the feelings you had that when you actually did make a link with the spirit. So in a very basic layman's terms, when we talk about psychic things, they're very material, very, very much so about what's about your job, your relationship, your family, your life, blah, blah. All things that go around your life and make you up. Yeah. That is very material, that's psychic. When we move to the spirit world, we know evidential communication. They gave us evidence of the life they had through their memories, etc. However, with the psychic world, you can stimulate your psychic faculty even when you're sitting in the power. So your psychic faculty becomes more enhanced. And it's a wonderful, wonderful tool to work with your clients. You know, some people take for granted and think that every time they sit down with a client or they go and do something, the spirit world's just going to be there. Well, what about if you're sitting with a client in a one-to-one and there's no spirit for 5 or 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Right? You have to be able to learn to blend your energy of your own auric field with theirs to understand. So when we talk about this, we have the auric field around us and all those psychic things that float in the ether. You drive a red car, you've got five cats, etc. And then we move into a deeper level of connection with the soul in front of us. So we start to, on an intuitive level, read the soul of the person, not just the persona, the personality which presents itself in the auric field. And when you start to read the auric field correctly, you actually get to understand, feel, read the true soul of the person, not all the dressing up around it of the everyday fluffy material things. And I'm saying fluffy is like, you know, if you work as a secretary, you collect red cars and you go sailing. And someone might say, yeah, well, that's right. That's all just stuff floating in the ether around you. But when we're working with a good intuitive and a good psychic who's trained, you can actually move beyond all of that to deeper levels of consciousness with that person and actually guide, aid, and heal and give direction at a deeper level to areas of their life that they might need guidance with, they might need help with, or they might need to navigate through. You also, in doing that, are touching elements of things around them of their persona. So your persona is the total sum of who you are. And so that is made up of all your life experiences. And it may be through some of their life experiences, perhaps as an example, someone's got themselves in a bit of a tangle or a mess today. It may be through not dealing with a life experience or something that's gone on. And a true psychic and intuitive who really embraces the energy of the soul and works with it can navigate through that to help the client get a better understanding of themselves. So you're not sitting there as a psychic and telling someone what to do, which we should never do. You're actually looking at the elements of what created their situation in the first place. What are they perhaps not doing to help themselves? What can they do to help themselves? So the road of navigation can cover lots of different areas in aiding a client on a very material level, which has nothing to do with the spirit world. It's about their spirit here. So to say that a psychic is a lower vibration or it's nonsense or I only work with the spirit world, I actually think people who think like that are missing out.
Yeah.
Does that make
I've got something to share with to add to that as well, because I've heard in the past, and people watching the show may have heard this as well, that psychic is like energy or connection is played down compared to mediumship connections and working that way. What was your response to that?
Well, of course, the psychic connection is what we may, if we want to be scientific and talk about vibration, the psychic connection is a sort of a lower, colder vibration. Okay, if I can say that to you, to me, when I'm working psychically, it feels very flat and not cold in an awful way, because I like to blend with my clients. So it feels flat as opposed to when I get that oomph, that lift of the presence of the soul I'm working with from the other world. There's an absolute definite definition, but sometimes it overlaps that people can't make the difference out, or they have to learn how to do it. This is why we recommend you learn to sit in the power, so you feel the presence of the soul communicating from the spirit world. It's a different feeling. For myself, when I'm working psychically, it just feels like I'm giving out information. It's just, I don't get moved by it unless there's a need of that's something inside them that I'm talking about actually moves me as well. But when I get the spirit connection, there is actually definitely a movement with me, a shift. And so I know that I'm in the presence of someone else, not just my own mind. So as mediumship flows through the psychic faculty of the mind, you must remember the information from the spirit flows through the mind in an array of thoughts and impressions through the medium's mind. And the psychic work is from the mind. So the psychics are working from here, from their mind, as they blend with the energy to do the reading of the person in front of them. When you're sitting making a contact with a spirit, it just flows through. Does that make sense, Anthony?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really good way of explaining that as well. The difference.
And that's the thing. It's all about education, really, understanding what the process is of when we connect from ourselves to the spirit world, to having a contact. I don't like to use the word contact, but because it denotes like without emotion, but that spirit person coming in. But I mean, the word itself, psychic, I believe, am I right in saying that it's an old Latin, it's a Latin word meaning
Greek.
soul?
Yeah,
well,
it's Latin, Greek, it's soul. Greek word it means soul. And that's what a psychic does. And I think psychic work is so rewarding. I do a lot of psychic work. And so you can use that element of the psychic mind on so many different levels. I work with a lot of businesses. So I might do a little bit of business projection. So I might get a feeling of things around people's businesses, guidance, that sort of thing. But always remember, when we're working psychically, we're only ever working with potential and possibility, because people have free will, they have responsibility. And also when you're giving psychic information, there is a whole lot of variables around it. So to say, oh, I'm going to predict this, I'm going to do that, is a no-no. You must learn to understand the feeling that you're getting around a piece of information. You might have a sense of a timing or a sense of a situation that may occur for them. And you present that to your client as an opportunity or an option, not telling them what to do. Because the variables around the options and potentials you see with people can really define in which way they will go. Does that make sense?
But yeah, absolutely. So there is always going to be an element of the thinking process and the energy, because I know with everything has energy, and I know even a company has its own identity of an energy. So, but it's those people in charge that can change the outcome, if you like. So I know somebody who advises clients the best people to employ for certain roles, which I thought was quite a unique way of doing it. So the idea of the CV goes out the window. Does this person suit this role? Which I think is quite unique and a great idea. Yeah, but how, excuse me, from an individual point of view, how do we develop it? Not just can we do exercises? I mean, sitting in the power is great for a lot of people, but some people say, oh, I don't have the time to meditate. Is there anything else they could do to help them to develop their psychic?
Well, I believe that people should, if they're learning about mediumship in the spirit world, I still think they should learn about the psychic side, because it's such a wonderful, majestic kaleidoscope of opportunity to learn. You learn about all different aspects of symbology, different aspects of colors. There's different sensations, different perceptions. There's different patterns of thought you can use. You can do the most, I mean, there's millions of exercises that a lot of tutors, including myself, would do to stimulate the psychic faculty with people, because I'll tell you now, there's nothing more fantastic than the human mind. It is amazing what the mind is capable of. And it is amazing what levels of consciousness we can actually delve into within ourselves and with other people. So once you understand that, if you can get to someone who can guide you to explain things, how you read the auric field on a psychic level, how you interpret different aspects of colors, how you interpret different aspects of symbology, as you grow and develop, you actually create your own code of color, your own code of symbology yourself. And as you do that, the spirit world understand that as well. It'll be amazing when you are developing to find out that they're understanding what you're saying. So you actually develop your own shorthand, so to speak. And so some people, a lot of people, you know, the majority of people sense color, they don't see it. And so as they're sensing colors, which is not everybody's bag, it's not everybody's thing to do. Like, you learn to interpret and understand it can mean different things. If we're doing a spiritual assessment, we will use color. And we'll do a lot of spiritual assessments on a psychic level, because we're looking at what fundamentally is helping that soul operate, what opportunities are around, where their best pathway possibly could lie, and how we can help them move forward. We have to do that psychically, because the spirit world may come in if there's a helper or an influence who wants to give some sort of information at the time. But we don't just tap in and a great guide in spirit world comes in and says, oh, well, they're going to be clairaudient and they're going to do a spirit portraiture and I think they should be a healer, blah, blah, blah. These are aspects that we feel and sense on a psychic level within the soul of someone. And so when you learn to understand the deeper levels of the psychic, it's not just you have red cars and 5 cats and you're a bricklayer. It's much deeper and way beyond that. And you can do the most amazing work. And it also is a fantastic springboard to stimulate the mediumistic faculty. So the intuition, I mean, I was from a very, very psychic family. My nana, my God bless her, my nana used to read the flames in the fire. So when I was a little girl, I often, when we stayed at my nan's, my sister and my brother and I would sit on the couch in the northeast of England, freezing cold. And there's also be an old coal fire. And I remember distinctly at times my nana saying, what patterns can you make with these flames? Just relax and tell me, close your eyes, then open your eyes quickly. What colors are the flames? What color does that feel like to you? What does it mean to you? Can you see the patterns? Can you see the face? Can you see this? And she would sit with the flames and tell us stories that she brought from the flames of her fire. And we'd say, where do you get that from? She'd say, well, I'm telling you a story from the flames. So what was happening is her own intuitive perception mind was sensing and operating, and she knew things. She was very, very psychic, very naturally mediumistic. So she knew things, but she could devise a pattern of how the flames went, even to the fact when it was cooling down the embers, when the fire was going out, which way the ash or the embers fell. She would tell you information with it. It would mean something to her. So I grew up hearing that when I was younger, and of course I took no notice. I just thought my nana was nuts, and she told me great stories. But when I look back now, she actually saw things in the flames. And of course, her psychic clairvoyance was firing. She would say, my granddad died the year before I was born. I never met him. And I was the oldest grandchild. So my gran was on her own all her life. And she used to always say, oh, granddad's been in the fire. Oh, granddad's been at the top of the stairs. And, you know, all that, and just naturally would say it, just like that, just like that. And she used to say a very old English northern term. She used to say, right, I've seen your granddad in the fire. There'll be trouble in the morning.
Wow.
There'll be trouble in the morning. And we used to go, and I'll tell you, she used to say things and we used to laugh, but her predictions used to happen. So she was quite sought out because she was very well known for tea leaf reading as well. Her psychic mind was flow the whole time.
I was going to say,
sorry, go on.
Because that I wanted to touch on the tea leaf reading as well, and to say she was a tea leaf reader as well. It is, again, it's igniting that the third eye, her intuitive ability, connecting to that. Because I joked with somebody. There's a store over here called Harriet's Tea Rooms, based on like a Victorian.
Oh, I know it.
And a friend of mine was trying to read the tea leaves, and I joked and looked in the cup. I'm like, straight away, I can't believe I'm admitting that on air, but I got stuff straight away from this person. I'm like, so you can read tea leaves, it can be done.
Well, it's just a form of symbology. I mean, I teach tea leaf reading. I do lots of lectures and classes. In fact, I taught it at the college a few years ago. We had masses of teacups on these tea trolleys for this afternoon lecture. It was fantastic. So, no, I do lots of things like that. I still do it now with my mum and my sisters. If I've got something I want to know about, I ring my mum and say, Mum, I'm going to get my tea leaves. I'm going to do my cup and I'm going to photograph it and send it to you. Sit and read it for me. So those sort of things my gran did, and she passed that down to her daughters, particularly my mum, which passed it on to us. So that's actually stimulating the act of understanding symbology. You know, the rule of symbology is at a place, a name, a situation, blah, blah, and your feeling of perception around those situations, how you interpret your symbols, because they're different for everybody. But it's about how you can actually move and create a wonderful story. They say you're the storyteller as the medium. You unpack it. Well, you unpack it the same psychically, because you can do that with your symbols, with your colors, with the aspects of information you're picking up in the auric field. So the tea leaf reading was very, very significant and very much on a symbolic level. And as that happened, we would listen, we would learn, and we'd watch. And now, I mean, I do tea leaves all the time, and I do a lot of is a really big part of my work as well with my students. I love it. Here, you're back again.
Yeah, no happened there.
So I think that, you know, when you say psychic, people just go, oh, yeah. And I think it's from lack of education or understanding, or actually taking the time to have a look. If you look back in history, we had some brilliant psychics who were able to give amazing predictions of situations that were global, you know, around the world, with politics and history. We had fantastic people who could use their mind clairvoyantly on a psychic level and foresee things. And so it's just the art of prediction and the art of divination that people don't quite understand. And it's the lack of practice to use it that stops people. If you use it more and you understand it, it can actually help you. I mean, I love to work with the spirit world. That is my passion. That's my heart. But I love this stuff as well because it's all part and parcel of the psychic basket.
Yeah, I believe it's almost like a key that helps you to open up and bring in the spirit. So
with all this information in respect to psychic and the symbology and the understanding with your family, including yourself, and how you teach your students and everything, is this in with respect to someone who's doing this just generally and think, you know, and not wanting to be a medium on platform or going forwards in that kind of way, but just generally doing that next to their job? Would you still sort of educate them and guide them in the same kind of way, or is it
yes, I would, because if you talk to people, I do teach the psychic and the intuition as in the foundational level, and most of people that I know that are very good teachers and mediums do exactly the same, because the student needs to understand the difference between the two worlds, the material and the spirit. And as you mature into your craft and you grow with it and understand it more, you start to appreciate the different things you can gain psychically with people and what you can do and how you can help people. So, as I said before, you are better to be a great psychic than a ropey medium. You know, if you're not going to be a great medium, but you can work well intuitively, there's nothing wrong with that. I know great psychics and intuitives that do fabulous work with readings privately, and they help people. They help people. And the psychic tools, you know, there's hundreds of psychic tools you could use: cards, crystal balls, I Ching, stones, whatever. That sort of stuff's been going on for eons of years. There's a whole collective history about it. But it's about what is right for the person who's going to do the work. But people should never shy away and think, I'm just a psychic, or I just can't do that. If you can work very well intuitively and psychically, you have value. And you actually can make that valuable. Yes, of course, a lot of people want to be an evidential medium, but perhaps some people just don't get there. And it's not everybody's bag, right? Perhaps you're happy doing that. So I say that you understand it and you learn about it, which will be a stepping stone to guide you. If you stimulate the intuitive faculty, if you stimulate the psychic mind and practice, it can lead you on to that breathtaking gift of mediumship. Now, if that's not your bag and you're not going to have that happen, you can still work as a beautiful psychic. And I have people around me now who are great psychics, don't do a lot of mediumship. Their work is spontaneous with the spirit world. They tend to find that their links are spontaneous, or they work better on an intuitive level and enjoy it more. And guess what? It works for them. So it's about the level of understanding, and it's not something you just go and do a course for 6 weeks and you're a psychic, because I believe everybody's born psychic. To be psychic is to be alive. It's a vibration, it's energy, it's who we are. It's our natural intuition, natural perception, and it's moving through the layers of the psychic, the ether, the perception, to understand at a soul level how we operate, how we live in this persona as us in this personality. And when people come for readings, how, 70%, or in fact, I would say 90% of people today want psychic information as well as the spirit.
There's a lot of people I know who don't follow the spiritual path, but also would use the terminology as having a gut feeling about something. Would still come under that same kind of understanding psychically, surely.
Yes, of course it will, because that's your gut instinct. That's your sensory perception. That's your natural intuition. Everybody's born with that intuitive nature, and everybody's born with that psychic level. But it's like Liberace. Not everybody can be Liberace, but everybody can learn to play a piano. It's like mediumship. Everybody can learn and understand the spirit world, and they may have spontaneous interludes with the spirit world, but not everybody's going to be a great platform medium, or a great private one-to-one, or a great spiritual healer. Everybody's at different levels according to their mental, psychological environment, how their mindset is. Your mediumship is part of who you are, and it fundamentally is involved with your emotional and mental state as well. So your psychic work is. So when you're working, all of those factors of your life come into play into the role that you will become as either the psychic or the medium, or a medium who works on both levels like I do. And the majority of people that I know who are very good mediums and work actually do the same. They can work both ways. But it isn't an issue if you don't, whatever's right for you. But I will say that I do find personally that a lot of people who feel that they're working spiritually, and I've had experiences where students will come in and say the spirit have said this, or it's this spirit, it's that spirit. But when we strip it all back, and I have this little joke in my groups that I teach, and I destruct to reconstruct. So as I destruct it, or we destruct it to have a look at where it's coming from, what's going on, a lot of stuff they're getting is actually of a psychic level and nothing to do with the world of the spirit.
Yeah.
Right.
And that can have its own pitfalls within itself, in terms of what actually people say to people and the responsibility around that. Absolutely. Can you imagine getting up there? We pop our clubs and we pass over, and we got some guy with a clipboard going, Bannister, come here. I didn't say that. They didn't say that. You've got it all wrong. Can you imagine? That's, on the serious side, it's that responsibility of what we tell people.
It is. And I also think, Paul, that it's I think it's more evidential for the medium to know what they're doing. Whether you're evidentially working with that soul in the spirit world, or you bring in evidence of someone in the psychic. When I say evidence psychically, I mean that you're telling them about their life. You're hitting accuracy. You're getting hits about what's going on with them at a deeper level or around their life, whatever. So that will be classed as evidential on a psychic level. The evidence from the spirit world, it's more important. The medium needs to know where they're at and what they're doing. And at the beginning of development, it gets crossed over, it gets mixed up. That's why you need someone to link with you, to tutor you, and lead you through these stages. But I will tell you, the world of the psychic is interesting, it's fascinating, it can be fun, it can be helpful, motivational, supportive. And I have people that I know who give great psychic information. And it involves an even greater scale then when we talk about the dream world. I'm very much into psychic dreaming. And so all of that, I work a lot with psychic dreams. And that's how I get a lot of information. And so that side of my mind is very fluent and open. And if you understand those levels, you'd be amazed at what you're capable of.
So just to deconstruct that, Christine, using your tongue, the psychic dreams you're using, is that around between spirit and ourselves? Because I believe we can get messages from spirit within our dreams. Is that what? Sorry,
I don't know if I'd want to call it a realm. Obviously, it's a level of consciousness within
level.
But I do believe that the spirit will touch our minds in a dream state and a sleep state as well. Absolutely. But of course, when you go into that sleep state, there's so much we don't know about consciousness. And so I do believe the spirit world, I mean, I know, I don't care what anybody else thinks. I know my spirit people come to me when I'm asleep in dream state. I hear more from my grandmother in a dream state, often with a bit of a prod, than I do at any other time. And so I know my nan comes to me in that state. Why? Because our minds are quiet, they're lucid, they're calm. We're not fighting with it emotionally, mentally. Oh, did I hear this? Did I see that? Is it my nan? Is it my dad? Is it my partner? You don't go into this mental battle. You don't engage the brain because you're in that sleep state. And so often our sleep and our dreams need interpretation. And over the years, I'm a very, very strong psychic dreamer. And over the years, I've developed my own code that I can actually decipher what my dreams mean to me. And it's usually always accompanied by a feeling, and it's usually right. So much that some of my friends, my colleagues will say, don't tell me if you dream about me.
I'm gonna second that. I believe in that totally, because I believe my first contact with my guide was through a dream.
Yes, I would say why not? Absolutely.
Felt it the next day.
And also with my dad, when he was alive, physically alive, he had a dream that my grandmother was going to die 24 hours after in the dream he was told that was going to happen. And then which was at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he was woken up out of dream state, out of sleep state from that. dream. Then at 3 o'clock in the morning, 24 hours later, it happened.
Yeah.
The same happens.
Absolutely, Anthony. You can't deny these sort of things. You know, the thing is with mediumship and with the psychic work, you can't keep putting everything in boxes.
No.
Because as you mature into your craft and you grow with your mediumship and your psychic ability, one of the most important things is you have to learn that you still need to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And as you mature with that and you become understanding of your own psychic self and how you operate on different levels as a person, how you function, how you affect that psychic ability, how you affect the mediumistic ability, you start understanding how the craft works with you and your mediumship is part of your daily life and how you function. So little things like, you know, how strong is your awareness without just pulling your mediumship out your pocket to go to group once a week or go to church once a week or something. What's your daily awareness like? Are you aware of the very subtle little signs and thoughts and the feelings? All of that. If your inner awareness is working correctly for the outer awareness, then your innate ability will flourish because you'll start to trust and go with it. And what we do, we're so bogged down with life, we're so busy in our mental minds that we have just forgot how to listen or take note.
Yeah.
And that's not listening with the human ears. That's listening with your observing.
It's a knowing. It's that feeling of having a knowing. It's like, you know, I know when the spirit world is with me, when I'm working with the spirit and not psychic. It's that innate knowing. And it's like little things, you know, silly little things. Like I might see a word on a car registration in front of me if I'm driving, and it might, bang, it means something. You know, it might be silly, crazy little thing like pink elephants comes in your head, and all of a sudden you put the TV on the next day and there's a show on pink elephants. It's that innate awareness of just knowing that you've noticed that little thing, and then somewhere it's around you in that sea of consciousness, because the sea of consciousness is so exciting. Guys, it's so exciting. There's so much depth in there. And I believe we have this innate ability to be far deeper with ourselves and other people than what we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And the more you notice it, I've noticed, the more it happens as well.
Yes. Yes, because your awareness is becoming ignited.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we say when you sit for the spirit world, be present in the presence of the spirit, be aware, be present in that moment. Well, if you're present with that innate awareness in the moment of something that's taking place around you, then it can give you guidance and the pathway. And I know many times I've had my fingers burnt when I've had such a strong feeling, or I've had a sign or a dream of something and I haven't followed it and I've been wrong. So I believe your own soul guidance is the best guide you can get anyway, if you learn to listen. And all of this comes back to the depths of the soul within the individual. Our soul is geared to guide us. Yeah. Our soul is there to lead us if we listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I find it really interesting. What would you say then to psychics that the biggest thing with the psychic ability is people want to know about their love life? I'm gonna go there. I'm so sorry, but I am gonna go there. You know, is my husband cheating? It's dangerous, isn't it? We're going down a dangerous route, I think.
Well, if somebody asked me that, I would say go and hire a private detective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that you have to be really sensible. And you have to be very honest in this field. You can't pretend that you get this wonderful connection with the spirit world and you get this amazing information working psychically. And you can't pretend that things aren't real and that you don't get things like that. Of course, you will get information like that. Of course, you're going to sense if something's wrong. But whether you take that responsibility and step out there and start interfering in people's lives at that deeper level comes down to who you are and what you are as a person.
Yeah.
I have to say that then goes on to a moralistic situation where I would be very, very mindful. And I am going to say to you, I am aware that I have picked that sort of information up before, and I do know it. Is it my business or responsibility to share that? Not necessarily. I can be wrong.
Although, as a medium, I used to coach football, and one of the techniques we used to use was guided learning. So, can we help those that are asking those questions, give them, subtle questions to ask themselves, teach them to learn the difference between what they're picking up and what they're feeling? I had a lady yesterday. I know every time he goes off, I can feel it. He's with somebody else. I can feel it, she says. So
in that,
yeah,
you'd want to advise very, very carefully.
Yeah.
And what the other thing, what we have to do as mediums and as good, intuitives or psychics, we must remember that our work is still about healing and empowering people, and that people come to us for aid, support, help. But the thing is, we are not God.
No.
We don't have all the answers. We don't get everything right. There's so many variables around information psychically, like I've said earlier. And so we have to take that responsibility carefully. I would then be thinking and feeling that person at a soul level, where they need guidance, where they need help. And I also think we are not the oracle that we have the answer to everything. So it's very wise. I've got a book here and it's got a lot of professional business cards in for people that can be guided to areas that need professional help that I can't provide. Alcoholism, drug abuse, sex abuse, financial abuse, gambling, anything like that. You need to be able to refer to the professionals when people need that professional help. Your job as a psychic is not to lead someone else's life.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's so important. So you do get those questions, Paul. You do, when am I getting married? When am I getting kids? When I do that? You've got to remember, when you pick these things up, you may indeed sense this information, but there's always a lot of variables around what is a potential possibility you're picking up, and what might be a situation that might be real and happening. There's still variables around that your mind might not be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not fully aware of the whole situation. You just don't know the bigger picture or the bigger plan.
That's right.
Sometimes you're getting a snapshot. And also within us and within everybody, there's this intrinsic fight or flight mode. So sometimes we just go straight into fear mode and we presume the worst.
That's right.
So, and it's really, again, I guess that's about developing your psychic ability to go beyond that.
Yeah.
So, but it's really, really easy to slip into that. I mean, I know a friend who went to a lady who did her tarot cards, and she asked, I'm sorry to share this, but I've got to share this because it's quite funny. And she does laugh about this story. But she asked the lady about her love life. And the lady said, you're going to meet a gentleman at the local park when you're with the children over the summer holidays. So every day she packed up a picnic for the children. And I believe her words were, she got an ASBO for hanging around the park so long, but she never met him. But bless her, she tried again. She went back to this psychic, and the psychic told her, oh no, actually, sorry, lovely, I got it wrong. It's going to be the new swim instructor at your children's swimming lessons. So of course she books onto this. Guess what happened? All the instructors were women. So she was devastated. So, but now the children can swim and have had lots of playtime in the park. So there was some good that came out of it. Apart from her
you have to be very, very careful. And as a responsible medium and a responsible intuitive psychic, you have to remember, when you're presenting yourself in your work to anybody, you're still representing all your colleagues and people who stand up for what you do in the mediumship field, in the psychic field. We're representing each other. And so we have to always have that responsibility. So, we're all capable of saying things wrong. And God knows I've probably said lots of things wrong over the years. I'm sure everybody does, because it's part of the human nature of learning and finding out.
Yeah.
But the other thing is about being brutally raw and honest with yourself and recognizing you're not God, understanding where you could be projecting information. It might be a bit of your stuff that comes out, understanding when you're given fluff and psychobabble, and understanding when you're truly giving support and really listening to someone and listening to what they don't say and helping them in a professional manner. No matter whether you work as the medium or the psychic, you need to hold responsibility and professionalism in both hands. It's so important. It's so important.
Agreed.
But psychic is a great thing. It's a wonderful, wonderful area. And I encourage anybody to understand it, learn about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's all through history. It's cultural. It's been going on for eons of years.
Did you know that we've all had the tingles at the back of the neck or on the arms? Did you know it's actually called the Derma optical perception? Perceiving energy, perceiving energy through the skin.
Yeah.
So I hadn't realized it was.
I may have read that a long time ago, but no, I didn't know that or know of it. It's not a term I would use. I don't always even get the tingles. I know everybody says to me, "Oh, I'm getting the goosebumps now," and I go, "Really?"
And another great example of working with spirit and psychic is psychometry.
Yes, fabulous. I love it.
Picking up the energy of the object that connects to that person, and you find normally that person will come in around that object.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. And I think that is also, I believe I read somewhere that it's recorded far back as ancient Greece.
Oh yes, it's a really, really. I love psychometry. It's fantastic. And you can really help stimulate the psychic mind by, reading objects, photographs, places, etc. And remember, we're reading the past and the present. You can't tell the future from psychometry, obviously, because the future's not happened. But you can get great detail and historical aspects and really put yourself to the test by doing it. And I love going to places. I love psychometry. I love all that sort of stuff. I think it's exciting. In fact, I take groups of students out. Pre-COVID, we used to go to different places. We would have a psychometry day and different psychometry exercises and see what they did and get the results. It's really interesting. It's a great stimulation. And of course, we know we can use that to link with the spirit world. So it can be, you pick up your photograph, you do your reading or an object, and then as soon as you feel the spirit, you put the object down and you work with the mind and the spirit. So it's a fabulous concept. And it's something, again, that's downplayed. Oh, they're just reading jewelry. Oh, they're just reading the ring. But I will say to people, how good are you at it? Have you done it before as an exercise? But how good is your quality?
Yeah.
My mum does it all the time. Yeah, my mum does it all the time. She's now frightening the grandchildren because if they bring a new boyfriend home, she'll say, has he got anything around his neck, a chain around his neck, or has he got a watch or anything? So my mum's getting a bit scary at the moment.
I love that.
I love the idea you take people out, outside or go off and do psychometry days. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's just about keeping it interesting. And I also think it's, you go to an old building or you go to someone's home or you do things like that. And it's quite amazing. My dad, when he was alive, I remember he went on an old dig because obviously he lived in England, an old medium. And he went on a dig with a friend and they unearthed some very, very old coins. And they sent them they did all this psychometry. There was about 3 of these guys and they were all doing this psychometry, all mediums. And they sent all the information off to the British Museum. And the British Museum come back and said, oh, no, you're a bit off track. That's not historically right. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, about 10 years later, they contacted him. And guess what? Where they'd found the coins, they found more. And they found other objects. And all the information my dad and his friends had got was proven correct by another historian.
Oh, wow.
Oh, brilliant.
10 years down the track.
Brilliant.
So, my dad loved psychometry. He had a lovely old friend who used to collect old coins from around the world. He was one of Britain's biggest coin collectors. And actually his coins are in the Old British Museum in London. Okay. And when he passed, he was a lovely old spiritualist, beautiful man, fantastic healer. And he used to come up with all these coins and used to get them off all these old ships and places. He used to talk about pirates and everything. And they used to have this old history book with these coins taped in, what they'd done psychometry on, where they'd got actually all the facts had been researched and confirmed. It was really interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
really interesting. Yeah. It's just different, isn't it? And it's, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I mean, what a great hobby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Christine Morgan, it's been lovely today as a guest on Spiritual Talk. We can't thank you enough to come on and talk about the psychic faculty. It's been brilliant.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.